Hilchas Eidus Perik Sheni. So we learned that they're the Chekiris and the B'dikas. The Chekiris, that's the time of when it happened, and also what happened. Time and place where it happened, and also what exactly happened. In other words, what did he kill him with? Which Avodah Zarah was he oived? How was he oived? Which malacha did he do on Shabbos? And how did he do the malacha? That's the how it happened. That's the Chekiris. And then there's another thing called B'dikas. B'dikas means asking details about things that happened. What clothes, what color clothes was he wearing? What color was the earth that they were standing on when this and this happened? Now, l'may nafkamina perik sheni ma ben chekiris lebdikas. What nafkamina la'alocha is there between chekiris and bdikas? B'chekiris udrishas im kiven echad es eidus. If someone said his eidus clearly, he said clearly all the details of his eidus. And the other aid said about some of the questions of the chekiris, Eini Yedea says Eidusam Tela, because he's missing his Eidus. There's an Eid Hasheni that says Eini Yedea on one of the Chekiris and the Drishes, mainly he didn't really say a full Haggadas Eidus. Aval B'bdikis, Afilu Shneim Einon Yedim, even if both Eidim say about the details that you're asking, they both say they don't know Eidus and Kayamas. However, however, if they're contradicting each other, so then Afilu B'bdikis Eidusam Tela. So basically, by Chekiris, they have to say the Chekiris in order for them to be considered an 8. If they don't say clearly all these details, so it means they didn't say clearly the Haggadas Eidus. They didn't say clearly the Haggadas Eidus. And therefore, they're possible. Masha'in kein b'negei b'dikis, since that's not essential in the Haggadas Eidus, so therefore, if they didn't say it, they're not possible. It is not a psul in the Haggadas Eidus. There's no psul in the Haggadas Eidus. It's just that if they contradict each other, so then that will be a psul. Heidu shahareg dam tachuzus. Hirgu shahareg zezeh. They were made that someone killed someone. Va'amar ha'ida echad kshenechkar. It was b'shavua pleinin, it was b'shana pleinis, b'chedesh pleini, b'kav v'chedesh, b'revi b'shabbos b'sheishois b'yem, b'mokim pleini hargi. In other words, he answered all the questions. V'chein kshedarshi b'mai harge, amar harge b'sayif. So he answered all the questions, side the time, side the place, and side how it was done. V'cheino Eid Hasheni is also given Eidusibach Kil. He said everything. Chutz min hashois. When it came to what time it was, Amar Eini Yideh bekam hashois hoy bayim. I don't know what time it was. Oy shekiven es hashoy. He knew what time it was. V'Amar Eini Yideh b'mei harga. I don't know what he actually used. What was the weapon? I didn't really pay attention to what kind of keli he had. I know he had something, and he killed him, but I don't know what. I don't know if it was an axe. It was a hammer or a sword. Is a dusibitel because Lepel, since he didn't answer all the questions, felt in Haggadas Eidus. It felt his Haggadas Eidus is only if he answered all the questions. Mashiach, if he didn't answer all the questions, so it's missing the Haggadas Eidus. If they said all the answers and all stimmed, was his clothes black or white? And on that they answered, we didn't pay attention to these types of things which are really irrelevant. Is they do some so they do some kayamas. Their Eidus is kayamas because lepel, even though they don't know it, there's no problem. Whereas they said a full Eidus, the fact that they weren't aware what color was his clothes or what color was other issues, so it's not relevant. However, Amar Echad Kelim Shchedim Hoyelavish. One of them said he was wearing black clothes. But Amar Hasheni Leikia Lekeli Levanim Hoyelavish. He was wearing white clothes. So then our Eidus Tela. And that's the same. Ukila Amar Echad B'Revi B'Shabbos, as if one would have said it happened on Wednesday, Hasheni B'Chamishi, and the other one said it happened on Thursday. So also Shein Kanedus. That would also be a Kanedus. So a contradiction in the B'dikas is the same like a contradiction in the Chekiris, and therefore the Eidus is bottled. Or if it would be Sha'amar Echad B'Sayif Harge, if one would have said they killed him with a Sayif, Vasheni Yomar B'Reima, the other one said with a spear. There's one person said with a sword, one person said with a spear. Shein Kanedus, Shenam Nochin Adover, it has to be Nochin. V'kivin Shechishu Zeh Zeh, B'Dov Mikol Advarim, Ein Zeh Nochin. And just like if they were Chishu Zeh Zeh, B'Negeh the Chekiris, so Al Der Zeh, they were Chishu Zeh Zeh, B'Bdikas. Halacha Gimel, Hoyu Ha'edim Merubim. There were a number, more than 2 Eidus. Two of them said all the answers of the Chiris Udrishis and it was gestimmt. They said the right answers. Aber Vashlishi Eimer Eini Yedeh, the third one says about one of the Chiris Udrishis, or more than one, he said Eini Yedeh, so Bekitzer, he doesn't have a din of an eight. So in Melis, this guy, Eidus, B'Shnayim V'Yoharik. Therefore, the other Shnayim have a din of Eidim. There's three people who come to Bezdin to say Eidus. Two of them answer all the Drishas and Chiris, and one of them says he doesn't know. So basically, he's not really saying a full Eidus. So in Melis, this guy Eidus, B'Shnayim V'Yoharik. What happens if he answered and he answered wrong? Two people said the same answer. There's two people said Saif, and the other one said Reimach. Or two people said he was wearing black clothes, and the other one said he was wearing other clothes. So then it's aval hichish name afilu b'bdikas is then they do some tela. So if there's three edim, and they contradict each other, so then regardless of how they contradicted, what they contradicted each other in, they do some tela. Masha'en came if there were three edus and one of them doesn't fill in all the chikiras and drishas. Because he doesn't know the answers to the 7 questions, or to the question of how it actually happened, what was the weapon, or what was the exact details. So then, since he didn't know it, so he doesn't really have a din of an eid. If he doesn't have a din of an eid, so he doesn't passel. There's 2 eids, and he doesn't have a din of an eid. Which l'chura the mashmois advarim is that he doesn't have a din of an eid, which is benigeh the shaila we mentioned before, benigeh the shailus achreinim. If a person didn't do the drishos of chikiras, is the pshat is it's psadin and bezin psadin neid. The pashas over here comes out that there was no real Agodas Eidus. Halacha Dalet. Eida Chodemer B'Revi B'Shabbos. It happened on Wednesday, and that was B'Sheni B'Chedesh. It was the 2nd day of the month. V'Sheni Yemi also was B'Revi B'Shabbos. It happened on Wednesday, but it was B'Shleisha B'Chedesh. It was really on the 3rd day of the month. So the din is Eidus and Kayamas. Why? Because Shezeh Yada B'Iburi Shel Chedesh V'Zeh Le Yada. So in other words, let's say Sunday was Chavtes, and the question is, was Monday Lamed, or was Monday Aleph? If Monday was Lamed, so then it makes sense that Wednesday was Beis. If Monday was Aleph, so then Wednesday will be Gimel. So Mel will say like this, Aliba Damas, Wednesday was Beis. Because it was a Chedesh Mu'ber. It was a Chedesh Mu'ber. It's just that the person that said it was Gimel wasn't aware there was a Chedesh Mu'ber, and that's why he said Gimel. So we're saying we're not going to passel the Eidus because he said Beis and he said Gimel. Because we're going to say the reason why he said Gimel is because it was Le Yoda B'Ibur Shel Chedesh, and therefore he said Gimel. Now, l'chura, that only works out if it works out. In other words, if Lepel, what happened was that on Sunday was Chavtes, and now the question is, in Ali B'Damas, it could be really both ways. Either Be'emes, it was Taka Yem Uber, and therefore it was Be'emes Beis, and he just thought it was Gimel, or Fakert, he thought it was Be'emes Gimel, and he thought that the Chedesh was a Chedesh Mu'ber, and therefore it was Beis. It could be the other way. Zeh Yodo, this person thought it was B'Ibur Shel Chedesh. It could really be both ways. But that's only if it works out that way. But let's say Lepel, if let's say Chedesh is Sunday was Taka Lamed. Sunday was Lamed. So therefore there's really no way that Wednesday should be Beis. There's no way. Sunday was Lamed. So Memanav Shach, if either Wednesday is Gimel, which let's say is the truth, that Wednesday was Gimel, or Wednesday would be Dalet. So if B'chiyai Gavna, l'chur, if one of them is saying Beis and the other was saying Gimel, you won't say Zeh Yoda B'Ibur Shel Chedesh, Zeh Yoda Le Yoda B'Ibur Shel Chedesh. Because Fakert, the Gimel came as a result of, the Ibur Shel Chedesh is not going to help it. It's not going to make a Dalet. This person saying Beis, this person saying Gimel, Beis has no art. Because there was a Ibur Shel Chedesh and there was Gimel. So l'chura, this whole din that we're saying Zeh Yoda B'Ibur Shel Chedesh, V'Zeh Le Yoda B'Ibur Shel Chedesh, would only work out in such a way. In other words, in a case where Lu Yitzir, one of them knew B'Ibur Shel Chedesh, and the other one didn't know B'Ibur Shel Chedesh, so then they could both be talking about the same date. It's just that they made a mistake. But Zeh Yoda B'Ibur Shel Chedesh, Zeh Yoda Le Yoda B'Ibur Shel Chedesh. So then we'll put them together. But in the case if one will say Beis and one will say Gimel, and Lepel, the Gimel only works out with the Ibur Shel Chedesh. The case that we're saying before is that the Gimel works out if there was no Ibur. If there was an Ibur, so then it's Beis, and if there was no Ibur, it would be Gimel. So B'meila, so therefore he didn't know B'Ibur, that's why he said Gimel, or there wasn't an Ibur. And the reason why it worked out is because if one knew B'Ibur and the other one didn't know about the Ibur, it worked out. But if the pshat is that be'emes, it only works out gimel with the ibur, because lepel Sunday was chavtes, Sunday was lamed rather. Sunday was lamed. So there was a chedesh muberes, and the chedesh muberes was on Sunday. So Wednesday was gimel. This person saying beis, the beis kleplished. The beis kleplished. So then you're not going to be able to work out and say ze yodebi burish chedesh, which is the chura pashat. Then the Ram continues that this whole din that we say ze yodebi buri, that yodebi buri is only ba'amed dvarim amun ad chatzes hachedesh, until chatzes hachedesh. So it's possible that the person still didn't know about the ibur chedesh, and memela, that's why he still thought that the chedesh wasn't muberes, and therefore he said gimel. You know, the reason why he said gimel is because le yodebi buri shel chedesh, and that's why he said gimel. That's the pashtus the case. Aval acher chatzes k'mei she'amar echad b'shisha asar b'chedesh. And Vasheni Ya'imer b'Shiva Asar, and the other one saying b'Shiva Asar because he doesn't know but was b'Buri. In other words, there was a Chedesh Muberes, and Lepel, that's why it was really Shisha Asar. And he's saying Shiva Asar, which would shtim if he wasn't aware that it was a Chedesh Muberes, but it's not going to help. Afal b'Shikiv Nushneim Yemechad Me'ah Shabbos. The exact same case. They both said Wednesday. One said it was Wednesday the 16th, and one said Wednesday the 17th. And if the person that said 17th didn't know about Iburi Shel Chedesh, makes sense why he's saying 17th, even though Aliva Damas it was 16th. But nevertheless, Eidus and Betela, She'en Chatzia Chedesh Bo Elo Kvar Yodu Akel Emes Ha'er Rish Chedesh. Doesn't make sense that he didn't know when it was Rish Chedesh. And therefore, if he's saying 17, there's something wrong here. Can't be that he wasn't aware of Iburi Shel Chedesh, because by that time everybody knows when Rish Chedesh was. Halacha Hey. Amar Ha'echad, now this whole thing was when one said 2, one said 3. Amar Echad b'shleisha b'chedesh, v'asheni yemer b'chamisha. So then is Eidus and B'telis, even though they're both saying Wednesday, and one was saying that this Wednesday was b'shlishi, and one was saying that Wednesday was b'chamishi. So that's not the same. So therefore, they're contradicting each other. And even though Lepel they had the same date of the week, but they don't have the same date of the month. Now, Amar Eid Echad b'shtei shoyis b'yeng, v'asheni yemer b'shalish shoyis hoya, is also Eidus and Kayamas. Because Lepel, they would judge the hour based on the sun. You can make a mistake. A person can make a mistake in 1 hour, so maybe the fact that one said 2 hours in the day, the other one said 3 hours in the day is not a problem. So then Eidus and Betela, because people don't make a mistake in 2 days. It's Mela over here, since there's a difference of 2 hours rather. Since there's a difference in 2 hours, so therefore Eidus and Betela. Now, Omer Eid Echad Kedem HaNetzachama, Ve'eid Echad Eimer BaHaNetzachama. One thing that happened by the nets, during the nets, and the other one said it happened an hour before the nets. So even though the difference between their hours are only 1 hour, but the difference between an hour before the nets and the nets is a very big difference. You know, obviously you don't make a mistake when it's the nets to think that it's an hour before the nets, or if it's an hour before the nets to think it's the nets. So Mele, if one is saying that it happened an hour before the nets, and the other one is saying it happened by the nets, so obviously they're contradicting each other. Eidus and Betela, Afal b'shisho achas, Shadov and Nikola Kel, V'chenem nechleka b'shkiosa. If they're arguing if it happened an hour before the shkia, or it happened by the shkia, or it happened an hour after the shkia, or by the shkia, so always, since they're arguing about something which is obvious, they can't make such a mistake, so therefore Eidus and Betela.